So, as we said in the Vancouver and Buffalo post-game video, we still needed to make other videos because there were other pieces of information that were given to us via social media, and some of these are a lot more dire than others. Because today we're talking about the Vancouver Canucks, and we are talking about trades. Take a look at this tweet. It was made by Rick Dhaliwal from earlier this week. It goes out there and talks about a Vancouver Canucks player in Nils Hoglander and how everything is fine. When it comes to Nils Hoglander's struggles as of late, I am told all parties, including agent Eileen Roy, are trying to get things back on track. All parties want the same thing, which is for Nils to play well and find his confidence. Now, we did talk about this tweet yesterday when it was made, whether or not there is some sort of a Hoglander trade on the horizon because of the Filip Hronek injury, but since this tweet was made, and since people were calling out Dhaliwal for saying the same thing about Andrei Kuzmenko last year before Kuzmenko got traded, we had ourselves a little bit more. Take a look at this. Dhaliwal tweeted this out after the game. Hoglander had 6 minutes and 28 seconds of ice time in Buffalo. 6 minutes Slim Shady are on. That is such a low amount. I didn't think it could get worse after the 7-minute game in Boston, but it did. And you have a bunch of replies. I'm not going to screenshot these, just going to go over some holistic comments. What does Tocchet expect from Hoglander when Hoglander doesn't get to play? I'm not a fan of how he's treating Hoglander. Hoglander is as good as gone. Does he even make it back to Vancouver? Rick Dhaliwal, you're making it worse by doing a play-by-play of his ice time. So people are starting to really think about this a little bit more. And I think one of the biggest pushes as to why Canucks fans are talking about a Nils Hoglander trade is because of this tweet made by Kevin Weekes about 40 minutes before the Canucks and the Buffalo Sabres game began. Take a look at Kevin Weekes and his low poly image that he ended up posting. A name generating interest in the market is Vancouver Canucks forward Nils Hoglander. He's 24 years old with cost certainty given his current 3-year, $3 million AAV contract, and he is skilled. I'm told the Penguins, the Capitals, and the Blue Jackets are among clubs that have explored the possibility. And this is where we dive into the future, because, man, context clues on the wall here. It does not look like Nils Hoglander's future in the NHL will be with this Vancouver Canucks team. Yes, he was a first-line player last year. Yes, he had 20-plus even-strength 5v5 goals last year. Yes, he was one of the most productive 5v5 players in the entire league last year. But he was given those top 6 minutes to start out the year this season, didn't really do much with it, and eventually worked his way down the lineup. There were opportunities for Hoglander throughout the year, but unfortunately, it's a dog-eat-dog world. It's a cutthroat hockey league. Rick Tocchet, this coaching staff, this management, they don't have room for guys who are not performing, and with so many other talented forwards on the roster, it's just going to be more difficult for Hoglander to keep his spot. There were some people talking about whether or not it should have been Hoglander who would have exited the lineup for Max Sasson the other day, or Arshdeep Bains as well. On this road trip, it's been kind of a mixed bag towards the bottom of the lineup here, especially with the absence of JT Miller. But for Nils Hoglander, he unfortunately has not played his best hockey this season, and I don't think anybody's going to disagree with that. Sure, it's hard for him to play better hockey when he's only given 6 to 7 minutes a night, like he has been given lately, but given how the Andrei Kuzmenko situation played out last year, which was almost exactly the same as this one, top-line guy, Elias Pettersson winger, has a great season, re-signs, comes back the next year, doesn't play well, gets demoted, is on the 4th line, gets little ice time, and then gets traded. This is almost exactly the same thing we are seeing with Nils Hoglander. It's just Hoglander's a lot younger than Kuzmenko was, so obviously there's more potential here longer term. It's just, when you think about these teams that are getting involved here, the Washington Capitals are interesting to me because they've been such a powerhouse this season. Do they actually need a guy like Hoglander to add on an extra element of skill? They're not thinking about Hoglander as a potential Ovechkin replacement. Hell no. But the way this team has been performing, Strome, Tom Wilson, McMichael, Ovi, of course, when he's in the lineup. These guys have been amazing. They've been productive. The team has been solid. Do they need a Nils Hoglander-like asset in order to bolster up their competition? Is that really a move that makes sense? Honestly, I'm not too sure. Washington, though, if they were to add on a guy like Hoglander, I would be interested in seeing how he performs alongside of a guy like Connor McMichael. Two skill guys doing their thing. I don't think Hoglander gets any time with Ovechkin. When Ovechkin comes back, that first line with Strome has been so dominant, and I don't really know if they would want to mess up much of the mojo there. But either way, the other two teams in Columbus and Pittsburgh I think are actually interesting because these two teams have right-handed defensemen, or not right-handed defensemen, just defensemen in general that the Vancouver Canucks have been linked to. In Columbus, it was David Jiricek, right-handed guy, also a young dude who has a lot of potential. He could be a top 2 guy by the time his career is said and done. And then you have yourselves Pittsburgh with Marcus Pettersson. Of course, we had been talking about him in a whole bunch of videos over the past few weeks as well. I'm not saying that a Hoglander for a Jiricek trade gets it done, like, oh, if you offered up Hoglander, then Columbus would immediately say yes to trading away Jiricek. Probably not. I don't think Hoglander's value is that high. Maybe he gets it done for Marcus Pettersson, but ultimately, if that's the kind of move that you're going to make, I feel like the Vancouver Canucks would have made that move already. Like, I know that the Canucks management staff believes in Hoglander. It's why they re-signed him. It's why they allowed him to be in this spot. But at this point, thinking about the deployment and how he's been losing value since the start of the year, this really is one of these situations where if you can get anything for the guy that is significant on the back end, I think you get it. You try at least. There were conversations, like I think Sat Shaw was talking about it on Sportsnet 650 the other night, that like, in his opinion, he would have traded Hoglander in the summer, back when his value was at its peak, back when he came off of that 20-goal season. Ever since Hoglander stopped producing much in the Stanley Cup playoffs, that was kind of like, I don't want to say like the hazard lights in that situation, but it was sort of the indication that where this team was going to go may not have had Hoglander as a significant part of that profile, especially when you consider the players that the Canucks ended up signing in free agency, the Jake DeBrusks, the Danton Heinens, the Daniel Sprongs at the time, and then continuing on with progression to guys like Connor Garland and P.S. Suter. Hoglander does not play the same kind of reliable game as these guys do. He's a little bit more skilled, he's a little bit more tenacious, he takes a few more penalties too. So ultimately, the Vancouver Canucks have not been getting the best out of Hoglander, and if a team in Washington or in Pittsburgh or Columbus is looking at him and saying, yeah, we think he can be better with us, we think we can give him a better role, then hey, all the power to them to evaluate Hoglander as they please. If that results in a David Jiricek trade, then okay, that would be amazing. David Jiricek for Hoglander, let's get it done. But of course, I don't think that's going to get it done in the slightest. I think the Canucks probably would have done it already if it would have been able to get it done. And then you have yourselves the dynamics as well. I'm interested in seeing how a guy like Hoglander would play in Columbus, because thinking about Johnson and Hoglander on the same line, the Michigan potential is crazy. Kent Johnson setting up a Michigan goal, Nils Hoglander maybe doing the same thing. He still hasn't accomplished that at the NHL level thus far in his NHL career so far, but ultimately, there's a lot of skill there. In Pittsburgh, as we had seen in the Penguins game a few days ago, there are some pretty sneaky depth forwards that can get points. I mean, it's kind of weird to say that Rickard Rakell is a depth guy, but come on, when you're playing with Macklin and Crosby, it's a little bit difficult to not be. Michael Bunting is there, of course, he's been pretty good the past little while, and there are some other guys, too, that stand out on the Pittsburgh side of things. Anthony Beauvillier, Lars Eller, Blake Lizotte. There are some pretty notable names. Not too many young guys, though. So maybe Hoglander getting sent over to Pittsburgh would be a saving grace for them in that respect, bolstering up the youth for their post-Crosby years. But if you're a fan of the Penguins, the Blue Jackets, or the Capitals, I want you to let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. How do you feel about the idea of potentially trading for Nils Hoglander? And what do you think is the trade that gets it done? Vancouver is obviously going to want some significant assets in return. Hoglander is only, 23 years old after all? And just coming off of a 20-plus goal 5v5 season, so he definitely still has value, he still has potential to grow. It's just right now, the Vancouver Canucks are not getting much out of him, and with this team and their expectations for this season, who knows how acceptable that's going to be before he ends up getting moved ultimately. So let me know your thoughts in the comment section about each of these three teams. If you're a Canucks fan, what would you want from Columbus, from Washington, or Pittsburgh to get Hoglander off of Patrick Allvin's hands? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. I hope you enjoyed this video. 9 and bye.